Hey there, my name is Jayson Blacksmith and I am an audio engineering student at the New England Institute of Art. A lot of people in the audio industry have a similar story. They loved music since they were a kid, started recording their music and fell in love with engineering. That's not me. In fact, I was probably the only kid in school that couldn't answer the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? I always learned really quickly, so I was good at a lot of things. First, it was game design, then mathematics, architecture, writing, graphic design, photography, videography, the list goes on. This continued all the way until the end of my junior year when I went to a summer program that the New England Institute of Art offered. At the time, I was in love with videography, but I had been running front of house for the Manchester Vineyard Community Church for 2 years already, so I ended up going for audio while my best friend went for video to see which we thought we should do together. He became engrossed in videography, and I fell in love with audio. I immediately enrolled in the school and was excited to start my career in audio. It was a shot in the dark, but I couldn't be happier with the decision I made. My first semester at the college wasn't really what I expected. In Audio Tech 1 with Rick Smith, we learned the basics of how audio works by learning how to calculate complex sine waves and map out basic block diagram. While in my Survey of the Audio Industry class taught by Don Palouse, I learned about the state of the music industry as well as the laws and policies of major labels. It was a quick reality check that not everything was going to be easy, but I was ready for the challenge. From there, I went on to Audio Recording 1 with Eric Welsh, where I learned the basics behind signal flow and how to operate outboard signal processors. I worked with a 16-channel Mackie board, did my final 24-track mix on a Toft ATB, and recorded everything onto an Alesis HD24. Along with that, I took Audio Tech 2 with Dave Lefkowitz, where I learned in more detail how signal processors operated and learned more advanced block diagramming. That same semester introduced me to the one thing I could finally call my passion, sound for picture. I took a digital audio and media class with Owen Curtin where I learned the basic functions of Pro Tools, mixing techniques, and how to communicate with peripherals. The final project for that class was to take a designated video game trailer, remove all the audio from it, and replace it with your own. I was blown away with how much fun I had completing it. I spent the majority of my time either working on it or researching music or sound effects to use for it. Looking back at it now, I can see so many flaws, but at the time it was my masterpiece. I went on to take Principles of Computer Music with Tony Schultz, Audio Recording 2 with Al Shapiro, and Live Sound 1 with Alan Kraut. Principles of Computer Music taught me the basics behind using MIDI in Pro Tools as well as some techniques to writing music with MIDI. Audio Recording 2 taught me more advanced signal routing techniques like sidechain and parallel compression and reverse DI boxing. It also taught me the basics behind mic placement on guitars, vocals, amp stacks, and drum kits. The final project for that class was to record a full band using the Trident Series 80 going into Pro Tools. I recorded a singer-songwriter band called Dan the Baker.
Because I didn't want to leave home. No, I didn't want to leave home. Oh my friend, oh my dears, as we feared.
Live Sound 1 taught me how to amplify and ring out house speakers, as well as taught me some basics on live lighting techniques and how to use the Yamaha M7. I had an advantage going into the class, having done front of house for Manchester Vineyard Community Church for a few years already, but I definitely learned a lot. Around this time, I started getting involved in helping film, edit, and produce a YouTube comedy sketch series called The T&E Show. It wasn't a particularly professional or successful series, but I got a lot of good experience through it. It was the first time where I had to work under the constraints of someone else making all of the creative decisions, which taught me how to be creative and enjoy what I'm doing while still preserving the client's image of the final product. It also gave me a lot of practice using Premiere Pro as a video editing medium and Audition as an audio editing medium. The series lasted a little over a year, filming at least once a week and publishing a video bi-weekly. Then I took hard disk recording with Owen Curtin. The class started off teaching more advanced skills in Pro Tools, how to use the Yamaha O2R, digital patching through a Z-Sys, and operating Yamaha Studio Manager. The final project for this course, however, was to take a trailer or scene from a movie and, yet again, remove all the audio and replace it with your own, but this time at a higher level of expectation. I already knew I loved doing this, so I decided to take it one step further and made my own trailer from scratch, using my former experience using Adobe Premiere Pro to edit together my own trailer of sorts using a digital copy of The Great Gatsby that I had recently bought. It was a lot of fun, and surprisingly, despite having more work to do to finish it, it was actually easier, as by the time I was adding music and doing sound design, I was already familiar with the video. Luckily, I was able to work with some excellent voice actors that made my job so much more enjoyable, as I could worry more about the quality of the sound and the performance instead of focusing on lip sync. Immediately after that class, I took Sound for Picture with Jay Frigoletto. This class was much more focused on what you would actually be doing in the industry, using multiple recordings of production audio, as well as adding our own sound effects, Foley, ADR, and music in a 5.1 environment. This was the first time I was introduced to 5.1 mixing, and I loved it. The class gave us a very detailed understanding of formats, the history of sound and film, how to operate the Yamaha DM2000, as well as file management. It was refreshing to see the realistic side of doing sound for film where you will already have production sound to work with. It forces you to be creative to solve issues within the production track. After taking that class, I was convinced that sound for film was what I was going to focus on, so I started contacting all of my friends in the digital film and video program here at the school. I got involved doing anything I can with them, whether it was just giving them advice on what shotgun mic to buy, operating a boom for them, or doing sound design in post. I did whatever I could to help get more experience. That same semester, I took advanced recording techniques with Al Shapiro. I learned more advanced methods of miking like MS pairing, learned how to mic more interesting and difficult instruments like the piano, harmonica, and even the sitar, and learned the ins and outs of the SSL duality. The final project for this course was to record at least 2 songs in the studio. This was a huge learning experience for me as I had scheduled and pre-planned all of my time in the studio with a specific band, but at the last minute they bailed on me, leaving me very little studio time left to find another artist and get them in the studio. I ended up recording 2 songs by White Island Medium and a song by Ray and Simplicity. It was very simplistic, but it ended up pretty good.
I indulged in the flesh, all that I saw, anything that I wanted.
I then took music theory, Pro Tools certification, and acoustics courses, all with Dave Lefkowitz. Having taken 3 years of music theory in high school, the music theory class came easily to me, but it was a good refresher and taught me the importance of music theory as it pertains to audio engineering. Pro Tools certification taught me the in-depth processes of Pro Tools and gave me a deeper understanding of how it communicates with interfaces and TDM plugins. I was also able to receive a Pro Tools Level 1 certification, which I am sure I will take with me for the rest of my career. Acoustics was a lot of fun as I was able to learn how sound interacts with the environment, which is an extremely important thing to consider, especially when doing sound for film. We got to meet some state-of-the-art acousticians and got a personal tour of Symphony Hall. At the same time, I also took Live Sound 2 with Rick Smith, which taught me more advanced signal routing and processing in a live setting, how to set up a line array, grounding techniques, more advanced usage of the Yamaha M7, and how to properly operate the DBX 234 crossover. During the next quarter, I took advanced hard disk recording with Pete Peliquin. This class taught me more advanced Pro Tools techniques and more advanced 5.1 operation. It introduced me to the concept of mixing music in a 5.1 setting. It was the most fun I had ever had mixing music, and the final product turned out better than I could have imagined. The final project for this class was to again strip a trailer or scene from a movie and recreate all the audio. But this time it was in a 5.1 environment and there was a lot more expected of me. I ended up doing the trailer for Despicable Me 2. I spent all of my free time working on it to make sure it wasn't just good, but that it would surpass my own expectations. I spent countless hours in the studio perfecting the ADR and Foley and making sure the mix felt right in a 5.1 environment. It was a bit harder as I couldn't really mix this at home at all, as I do not have a 5.1 setup in my personal rig. So whenever I wanted to really work on this project, I would have to go to the studio to do it. It was hard work, but it paid off as I couldn't be happier with the results.
We are the anti-villain.
I submitted this project for a potential Amy Award just a few weeks ago and was not only nominated but actually won the Amy Award for Best Sound for Visual Media. I proceeded to take Electronics 1 in synthesis and sampling the very next quarter. Electronics 1, taught by Neil Miller, taught me the basics of how electronics work, how to calculate power, voltage, current, and resistance within a current, and taught me basic soldering techniques. By the midterm, we had to make 3 cables from scratch, which you can see on the table in front of you, and by the final, we had to make an effects pedal. I ended up making a guitar compressor modeled off the orange squeezer. I am not that great with my hands, so making the compressor was one of the hardest things I had to do at this school, but it came out great in the end and I learned a lot. Synthesis and sampling with Tony Norton gave me an extensive understanding of the history of synthesizers and samplers, and taught me how to operate both analog synthesizers and digital synthesizers within Reason 8. That same semester I took a Foley class with Owen Curtin. The class focused heavily on the Foley aspect of doing sound for film, my personal favorite part. Our first assignment was Nature Foley, where we had to recreate the sounds of a creature in nature. I worked with 2 other people to make 2 projects, one of ants around a small puddle of water and one of meerkats digging in the desert for food. It wasn't the most glorifying project I've ever done, but it was a lot of fun as we had to be really creative to get the right sounds. Then we went back to the individuals and recreated a commercial that focused on Foley. I ended up doing a DirecTV commercial that had a lot of unique sounding Foley that forced me to be creative in how I would get that sound. One specific example was the sound of a metal gate opening. I didn't have anything like that, so I had to be creative in order to find a way to get that sound. It ended up being a combination of me scratching a KitchenAid bowl with a letter opener and the lowest and highest tones of my harmonicas put together that ended up perfecting the sound that I wanted. The final project for the course was to yet again recreate the audio from a movie scene, but this time focusing heavily on the Foley aspect. I ended up picking 2 back-to-back scenes of Big Hero 6. I thought it was a bit ambitious, but it wasn't until we had to make our markers that I realized exactly how much work I was going to have to put into this. I ended up having to split the work into 5 separate Pro Tools files, one for ADR, one for cloth, one for steps, one for prop Foley, and one for sound design. Across all 5 files, I had over 350 markers of things I had to do before finishing. By the time the class was over, I unfortunately could not finish the project. I had completed all of the Foley, which is what the professor wanted in the first place, but I couldn't get some of my voice acting talent to come in to do the ADR for 2 of the characters. This taught me a valuable lesson, as it was the first time I wasn't actually able to fully complete a project that I had decided myself I would accomplish by the end of the class. From now on, I won't be pushing myself over the boundary of what is possible, but I will continue to challenge myself. The final product ended up better than I expected, and every step of the process was a lot of fun. I ended up hiring a voice actor from out of state to finish off the rest of the ADR for me, which was a bit nerve-wracking as I wasn't personally there as they were recording the ADR, so I had to trust their judgment, but it gave me the experience of working with someone else's work in order to complete the task. It is still a work in progress, as I am currently talking with a composer to see if we can work together to create a music track, but feel free to check it out. This brings us to this past quarter. I took Electronics 2 with Neil Miller and Mastering with Pete Peliquin. In Electronics 2, we learned much more advanced calculations as well as learned more about advanced electronics components like transistors, transformers, diodes, op-amps, and capacitors, and how to calculate each of their values within a circuit. In Mastering, we have been taught the concepts of mastering a song, operating TC Icon and the TC Electronics System 6000, operating Soundblade, printing a Redbook CD, analog mastering, and a basic understanding of isotope RX and reading spectrograms. During the semester, I have also been attending an industry seminar and portfolio class. The class focuses heavily on getting us ready to look for a career in the field. John Crivet, President-elect of the Audio Engineering Society, and Ty Irwin, the head audio career advisor here at the school, have taught us invaluable lessons in how to search for and get a job within our fields. Right before I started this course, I started interning at the Manchester Christian Church, a megachurch in the greater Manchester, New Hampshire area, consisting of over 4,000 members attending 9 weekly church services across 3 campuses. I have gone 3 days a week for 4 of their services to head up front of house at all 3 of their campuses. Their downtown campus uses the Allen & Heath iLive 80 in a 250-seat room. Their Wellington campus uses the Allen & Heath GLD 80 in a 500-seat auditorium, and a Mackie 3204 in a 100-seat cafe, while their brand new downtown campus uses the Avid Venue SC48 in an 800-seat auditorium. In 2011, the church was the fastest growing megachurch in the country, at an almost 40% increase in attendance that year. And with their new state-of-the-art campus that they just opened this year, it seems they will get that number again, as they are already at a 37% increase in attendance with half of the year still to go. While interning at this church, I have learned valuable lessons in working with the team, learning multiple digital and analog boards, working with Avion monitors as well as iPad application-based mixing for monitors, using ClearComms, operating KeyPro for video playback, basic usage of the Vista M1 control surface and software for lighting, and much more. When I joined the audio program at the school, I wasn't 100% sure it was what I wanted to do. I enjoyed it a lot, but it wasn't a passion. However, through learning it extensively for the past 3 years, I can truly say it is my passion. I've had hard times and great times, but through it all, it has never felt like work. Now I cannot wait to get out there and start learning even more while actually doing this for a living. I am prepared to take any and all opportunities to further my passion and learn more about the field of audio engineering. Please feel free to hang around and ask me any questions or watch and listen to the projects mentioned in this video in their entirety. Thanks for watching.